Hey guys, Dave Mason here from the Niche Lifestyle, 6:55 on a Monday night. Vlog 15, building team culture, purpose and ethos from scratch. And it's aimed at clubs, teams that have lost or never had a sense of purpose, team culture or ethos, and are trying to find one, build one or get one. The other thing is, why it's important, what is it, and how to start building it. Vlog 14, I spoke about a holistic perspective to running an NGO or a club. And point 5 of that was walking your team culture, or being custodians of your team culture. And it's one of the things where I see clubs struggling, or organisations struggling to find a sense of purpose, and that's one thing that I wanted to sort of touch on today. So 5 things today, and it's one, why it's important, why team culture is important. 2, I want to give an example, and probably the best team example, club example in the world, bar none, and it's all for our Wallaby supporters. So it's about the All Blacks, and I take 5 points out of a book that I'm reading at the moment by an author by the name of James Kerr, called Legacy. Things that we could learn from the All Blacks. 3, what is team culture and the do's and don'ts when you're creating it. 4, how to start building it, the process of going about building your team culture, club culture, organisational culture. And then I'm going to give an example of team culture with my particular club team. Okay, so why is it important? The reason why team culture is important is because it creates a sense of purpose. It creates a sense of belonging, and it's being a part of something greater than yourself. And the best way to explain that is to probably give you the best example of the best team or franchise, sporting team franchise in the world, and that's the All Blacks. Like I said, I'm reading a book by James Kerr called Legacy. For all you Kiwis out there, if you haven't read this book, grab it. It's great. It's inspirational. It's motivational, and it can be used in any context for any team, group, or organisation. He takes 5 points out of this particular book, and the first point he talks about is sweep. Now, some of you may or may not know that, or seen it on YouTube, but the All Blacks, after every game, and this included the 2 World Cups, family and friends are invited into the club rooms, the media are invited in, but then they are asked to leave and move on by team management, at which point the team has a debrief and they talk about the good things and the bad things, like normal team debriefs. But then the senior players in the group, and I'm talking about the best players in the world, pick up a broom and they start sweeping the sheds. And what this tells me, and this is a personal perspective, remember this is personal, this is my perspective, so you can take it or leave it. This is about character building, about humility, and about integrity. What the All Blacks are saying, to make this team, no matter how good or skillful you are, you've got to leave your ego at the door. Which I think is a pretty powerful point, considering you want, if you're the best team in the world. And I'm pretty adamant that they choose players based on culture fit, not necessarily the best skilled players in the world. Number 2, and this is something that I know Colin Meads had a lot to do with regards to the All Blacks, and this is back in 2005 where they had a think tank. and I know Tana Umanga was the captain at the time. And Colin Mead said, better players make better All Blacks. And what he spoke about was you're choosing the integrity, you're choosing the character of the people that you want in your organisation. That suits the culture, not because they're the best or most skillful people for it. Another powerful explanation as to why the best. Number 3, they talk about, the book talks about Kiwi Kaizen. Kaizen, for those of you who understand lean management, talks about continuous improvement. So what the All Blacks do and what the All Blacks look at is a constant improvement, 1% improvement or marginal gains in everything that they do. Wayne Bennett talks about it in his book, Don't Let the Music Die in You. And he talks about the 2% players. And at the time, I believe it was players like Gordy and Alfie Langer, who after training would still be out there working on their game, working on their skills to constantly improve. Number 4, he talks about pressure. And he talks about how the All Blacks can sustain, absorb, handle pressure. But he also talks about what happens under immense pressure. And he talks about what happens to carbon or coal when it's put under immense pressure. What do you get out of it? You get diamonds. From my perspective, and the way I look at it is adversity is a great teacher. If you and your team and your club and your group is willing to learn. You know, if you go through great adversity and you pop out the other end, you're a lot stronger, a lot wiser, hopefully, and you're better for it. The last thing he talks about, his 5th point about the book, he talks about legacy. And he talks about, and you hear the All Blacks talk all the time about being good ancestors. And if you're like me, you're an Indigenous person in New Zealand, we talk about our tipuna all the time, those that have come before us. And the All Blacks talk about now leaving the jersey in a better place than what they found it. Being custodians of the jerseys for that brief period of time, leaving their legacy in it so that when it's passed on, whoever steps into that role or takes on that jersey number has to be able to do it with their best game. So that's about the All Blacks. So what is team culture? 5 things that determine team culture: mission, values, vision, strategy, and culture itself. So the snapshot is mission. Why do we exist? What is your underpinning purpose? What's your club POD, for those that don't know? What's your point of difference? What makes you different from any other club? What are you about? In our outrigging club, Bayside, I know of about 30 kids. One group travels 36 kilometres one way just to train at our club. And then they go home. Another group comes from the Gold Coast. That's over 100 kilometres away, one way, and then they turn around and go back. What is it about our club that makes it different, that has the point of difference, that makes these people, these kids, these parents travel these vast distances to train at our club? What is it we have? Why are they willing to travel past other clubs that are only 4 or 5 kilometres away travel 100 kilometres just to train. Because they believe in what the club is about. They believe in what we're doing. They believe in what we're trying to attain. They believe in our ethos, in our club purpose, in our direction. They know that we are into developing our juniors. Not some of the time, all of the time. They know we don't talk it, we walk it. 2, values. What do we care about? What do we find important? Why does it matter? 3, vision. Where are we going? Or where are you going? What's your end goal? Is it vivid? Is it clear? Is it concise? Does everyone understand and know where you're going? What's nirvana for you and your club? What does the perfect look like? That's what you're looking for. That's what you're trying to create. Strategy. 4, how will we get there? What direction are we going to use? What strategies are we going to use? What processes? What systems? What things are we putting in place? Or what things are you putting in place to attain what you want? Culture. Now this is a weird one, because when people talk to me about culture, when I ask other people about culture and I ask them to explain what it is, some people struggle to understand what that looks like. Here's a test. How do you actually do things in your club? If I were to ask 10 people that are in your sport, that are in your industry, about your club, what's the first 3 things they're going to say to me? What's the small things you habitually do every time you're involved with your club? What part of, if people were to take a snapshot of your club, what's it going to scream at? What's your purpose going to be like if you were to try and put it in a nutshell? That's what culture's about. Now, if people who come into your club and look at it, take a snapshot, and they'll take a snapshot first week, second week, third week. If they can't get a feel for what the ethos of your club's about, they're not going to hang in there. They're not going to buy into you. They're not going to invest in you. When you start creating your mission statements, when you start creating your visions and your club culture, do not, and I repeat, do not use words like podiums, medals, placings, elite, champions, or bling, or any of that sort of stuff. Because all that sort of stuff are a byproduct of the journey of the club. They're not a means to an end. They are byproducts. And that's something that you have to understand. Your team culture should live long past any change in management. It is a legacy. So that in 20 years' time, when people ask you about your club, they're going to say, yeah, I know exactly what that club's about. Or even worse, they're going to say, what club? What team? What organisation? When you're creating team ethos, when you're creating culture, when you're creating your mission statements and your vision statements, use words like develop, nurture, grow, support, build, invest, or buy into. That is the quickest way to develop club culture. So once you understand purpose, once you understand why you exist, once you understand your POD, your point of difference, once you understand why people are willing to come to you, once you understand what you care about and being able to formulate into a game plan, develop your mission statement, develop your purpose, then you can start looking at your long-term goals. The last thing is I want to talk about how and the end goal. Like I said, championships, world championships, teams. Within our sport, I know we have what we call dial-up teams, where we get people to come in, admittedly very, very good people within the sport, and they make dial-up teams. This is about club culture, team culture. Because when you have these snapshot one-off teams, they don't last very long. There's no buy-in. No matter how good those teams are. If you haven't got the right people for the right fit for your club, for the right culture, it's not going to work. So, getting back to how and the end goal. The best way to do this is to start with the end goal in mind, and then reverse engineer or work backwards. So, you want to start with a great club that focuses on whatever it is. Then you've got to look at the great individuals. Then you've got to look at a great and awesome infrastructure. Then you've got to look at the people that you want within the infrastructure, within the club. So, start with the end goal in mind. All these things I spoke about when I talk about mission, values, vision, strategy and culture, that's determining what you want your club to look like. Then once you take a snapshot of that, then you can work backwards. I want to finish off with two things. One is I want to talk about my team, my particular team, and I know the boys are probably going to beat me up afterwards once I talk about them, but I think it's a pretty good example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about creating something within your team, within your club, within your organisation. So in October last year, I took over the coaching of the senior master team for Bayside Outriggers. And to be honest, we're a bunch of Neville nobodies, and we were novices. Some of us have only been paddling for 4 or 5 years at most. And in the world of paddling, you're a baby. You're still a baby. So the first thing I did is I wanted to test the character of the people in the team. So the first thing was I did for all you paddlers out there, you might remember the Bayside OC1 LC Long Course Regatta 2016 when we started at Thompson's Beach, went around Coogee, and then we ended up at Cleveland. That was our first training session on singles. It was a bloody long way. Well, for us anyway, us old fellas. And I saw the difference between first place and last place, and it was up to 3.5 kilometre difference. And that told me where everyone was within the team. One person pulled out of the team club, walked away and basically told me to get stuff. Didn't want anything to do with it. But that's about determining who you want in your team. The second thing I did was I chose a name. Sorry, I didn't choose a name. I said to the guys, I want a name. And we had fun with it, We had old buggers, we had pakeke, which is old fellas in Māori. And then one of the boys came up with a name, Bob, Team Bob. It's an acronym, obviously. So, I'm thinking, bloody old buggers. And he said, no. Bob stands for Band of Brothers. And in his head, if anyone who's seen that TV series Pacific, World War II series, there's a poem that they talk about. Band of Brothers And it goes like this: we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he never so vile, etc., etc., etc. And that name stuck. It was the glue. Gave us purpose. In the AB's example, I talked about pressure or adversity. This team had never done long course before. We'd only ever done short course and had been doing it for the last 3 years, this particular group of guys. So what did I do? I threw them in the long course series, marathon. Because what I wanted to do is see us under pressure, what we were like, under adversity, under pressure, under stressful conditions, testing our capacity, testing our mental approach. The other thing I did was I started swapping out training sessions for bonding sessions. 2 of the boys moved house. So what I did was I said to the boys, we're going to help these particular guys move. Again, it was about Bob creating that sense of purpose, being able to work for one another, being able to buy into one another. Not because we needed to, but because we wanted to. That's the sign of a good team, good club, or good organisation. When you're willing to do things for other people, not for monetary purposes, but because you're part of something bigger than yourself. Right now, we're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about creating a leadership group. And we're just in the throes of being able to, I know it's a year out, but I think it's time for us to create a leadership group. And that leadership group, its purpose is to help drive the team. Because at the moment it's just me as the coach, and then it's one of the boys is manager, Mark Brady. So what this does is it creates that leadership group that the ABs talk about. If you don't know, the ABs have a pretty powerful leadership group as well. And it's within the team. And they determine discipline, they determine goals, they help determine team structures. I mean, the coach doesn't go out on the field. The team does. The leadership group is on the field making on-field decisions. And that's why we're creating this leadership group. Because it's cementing purpose. It's putting concrete guidelines around goals and objectives, not just waffle and talk. So just to summarise, find a purpose, find a reason for why your team or your club exists. Give it meaning, give it a sense of purpose, and give it scope. And if you look up the thesaurus for scope, it talks about possibility, choice, opportunity, space, and latitude. That is talking about growth. When it comes to team culture, walk it, don't talk it. The moment you talk it but don't walk it, people will leave, jump ship faster than you can say, yeah, there's another club over there. People buy into our Bayside Outriggers Club because we focus on our juniors. We walk it. We don't just talk it. Our open men's team, bringing juniors through their ranks, putting them out in open ocean racing, because it's about developing the skills of our junior members. That is walking it. 4 Become a learning organisation, club or team. Be open to growth, be open to development, be open to learning new things. But then you've got to put this infrastructure behind it and make sure that you actually work at it. Last but not least, as a team, as a club, and as a group, you have to be a perpetual student. You have to be constantly learning or working. That word kaizen, constantly working and improving. Because if you don't, look, I know a lot of clubs look at these vlogs but do nothing, and I see it, and I see them struggle, and I see them, and then I can't do much about it. They have to be willing to take the steps to move forward. I hope that's giving you some idea on team culture, team purpose, team ethos. If anyone out there who's looking to get, who wants help in any way, shape or form, as I've said before in the last 14 other vlogs, always willing to help, always willing to give advice, help in any way, shape or form if it's going to improve what you currently do. Okay, Dave Mason from The Niche Lifestyle coming at you.